Hari Priye Sajiyat Krishna Chaitanya Shri Ratha Gare Narartaya Yena Si Jagatam Chitram Jagannatho Pivismitaha Jaya Shri Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasari Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Anadana Srinam Danter Puna Puna Shriman Rupa Padam Vojo Yudisyam Jamajandani Anandali Laya Maya Vigrahaya Imamba Divya Chavi Sundaraya Tasmai Mahaprema Rasa Pradaya Chaitanya Chandraya Namo Namaste Chaitanya Chandraya Namaste. So today we're going to discuss the Tattva of Jagannatha Ratha Yatra. How many of you in this group are coming to Los Angeles for Ratha Yatra this weekend? Everyone? Shubham?
I'll not be able to join this time. I was planning to bring my parents along, but they had some plans.
I see. Who in the Sattva? They'll be going. Vishal, will you come? And Lokabandhu Ram, will you be there? Okay, unresponsive. I guess no one's coming to Jagannatha Ratha Yatra, so maybe I should talk about it.
Hare Krishna Prabhu, we actually have a Snan Yatra in Berkeley on the same day.
I see. Conflicting schedules. So, I'll be speaking about the Tattva of Lord Jagannath. So in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, there's this beautiful verse at the beginning of Madhya Lila, chapter 13, which is Sya Jiyat Krishna Chaitanya Shri Ratha Gare Adartha Yaha Yena Si Jag Jagatam Chitram Jagannatho Pivismitaha. May the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Shri Krishna Chaitanya, who danced in front of the cart of Shri Jagannath, be all glorified. By seeing his dancing, not only was the whole universe held in wonder, but Lord Jagannath himself became very much astonished. So we should ask ourselves the question, who is Jagannath? And why is it that Jagannath appears in the form that he's appearing in? Jagannath has been explained by our acharyas such as Srila Prabhupada, Bhaktivinoda Thakur, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, to be non-different from Gopijana Vallabha, Krishna, and Vrindavan. So why is it that Jagannath resides in Jagannath Puri? Why is it that he sits on an altar with Balaram and Subhadra Devi all year? And if he's Gopi Jana Vallabha, then as they ask this question in Orissa, where is Radha? Where is Radha in Jagannath Puri? So we should contemplate these things as we're going into Ratha Yatra weekend. We should meditate on them. We should think about them, because by meditating on these topics, they become a part of who we are. Just like you put an iron rod into fire, it develops all the qualities of iron. So in the same way, when we contemplate these topics, they begin to transform our heart. And this is really the ultimate goal of life, is to be absorbed in meditating on the pastimes of Jagannath, the pastimes of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and the truths behind their identity. Janma karma cha me divyam evam yo veti tattvataha bhakva deham gunanjana naiti mamiti sarjana. That one who can understand the appearance and the activities of Krishna, Rajendra Nandana Krishna, they no longer have to take birth in this material world. And the Srimad Bhagavatam further confirms Tasmat ekena manasa Bhagavat satpatam patihi Shrotayas kirtayasyascha Deya pujas chanityada. That one should engage their mind. The ultimate essence of all advice is to be fully fixed in meditating on the Supreme Personality of Godhead, chanting his glories and hearing those glories constantly. So as we go into Jagannath Rath Yatra, this should be the meditation in our heart. Who is Jagannath? Who is Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu? What is Jagannath Puri? And what is this festival of Rath Yatra? So there's an internal, an antarkarana, and a bahir karana. Sorry, an antarkarana, there's an internal purpose, and a bahir karana, external purpose for Lord Jagannath's appearance in Jagannath Puri. First, I'll explain the external purpose, and then we'll describe the internal purpose. In order to understand the external purpose, we have to understand the story, ancient story of Jagannath and how he came to Nilachala. Nilachala is considered to be an abode which doesn't leave when this world leaves. It's eternally established. And anything which happens in Nilachala should be considered to be activities of the spiritual dimension, although through the Yogamaya Shakti of the Lord, we may become covered over, the Prodamaya Shakti, we may be covered over to think that the activities which are going on in Jagannath Puri are ordinary activities. But actually, in truth, there's only spiritual activities taking place in Jagannath Puri. So what is the Tattva of Jagannath Puri? What is the truth of Jagannath Puri? Why is Jagannath Puri the place that Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu chose to perform his later pastimes and spend a minimum of 18 years of his entire life there? So Lord Jagannath came to Nilachala through the desire of King Indradyumna. King Indradyumna was hearing the pastimes of Krishna in Dwarka, and he was hearing a pastime where the queens of Dwarka were hearing from Mother Rohini about Krishna's pastimes in Vrindavan. And Mother Rohini gathered all the queens together and said, now listen very carefully, I'm going to share something which is very confidential and very secret, but is actually the most precious gift that one can find within this world. I'm going to speak to you about the activities of the Brajvasis, the associates of Krishna in the land of Vrindavan. And the queens were very, very excited to hear this story. And they were listening very carefully. The Rohini said, let us speak very quietly, because if Krishna hears about this, he'll go completely mad. So Mother Rohini is speaking these pastimes, and somehow Krishna hears the pastime, and he acquires this form. He goes into what's known as a Mahabhava Prakash, where his arms become shrunken and his eyes become very dilated, and he becomes overwhelmed with ecstatic love in remembrance of his devotees in Vrindavan. So King Indradyumna Maharaj, wanting to worship this form of Krishna, developed a desire to have a deity of Krishna in Vrindavan, in Jagannath Puri, that could be worshipped constantly. So this form of Jagannath in Jagannath Puri is the Mahabhava Prakash form of the Lord. It's the form of ecstatic love, which is the highest essence of love. Krishna hearing about the residents of Vrindavan in a mood of separation. So Lord Jagannath is in Jagannath Puri, meditating on the love of the Vrajvasis. And this love of Vrindavan is considered to be the most refined form of love which can be found within all the three worlds and within the spiritual world. So this is what Jagannatha is meditating on. So when King Indrajuma decided to put this form of the Lord together, he was able to call Vishvakarma, the architect of the demigods. And Vishvakarma was working on this deity. He said, if you come in at any point when I'm working on this deity, then I'll stop my work. So King Indrajuma agreed. So Vishvakarma was working very dutifully on the deity. And when he was working on this form, King Indrajuma was becoming very anxious to want to see the Lord, to want to meditate on the Lord, to want to soak in the form of Lord Jagannath. So he immediately burst open the door prematurely, and then Vishvakarma, he disappeared. So what happened after that was that King Indrajuma saw this form of Jagannath, Baladev, and Subhadra in this unique looking form of their arms being shrunken and their eyes being dilated. But actually, this is the perfect form of Jagannath. This is actually Krishna's Mahabhava Prakash, his mood of ecstatic love. So this form of Jagannath is not an incomplete form, it's a complete form of Krishna. Om Purnam Adam Purnamudam. Om Purnam Adam Om Purnam Adam Purnamidam. Purna Purma Udachate. Purnasya Purnam Adaya. Purnam Eva Vishishyate. That Krishna is complete in himself. So this form of Jagannath is a complete form of Krishna. So how did Jagannath, what is the mood of Jagannath? What is the inner mood of Jagannath? We've spoken briefly on it, but actually there's another story which the Goswamis tell, which was specifically spoken by, it was specifically spoken by Srila Gaura Govinda Maharaj, who was raised in Orissa, who was a Jagannath Bhakta from his birth. And this story is a very confidential story about Lord Jagannath. Once in Dwarka, Krishna was in a coma of love. Meditating on the love of Srimati Radharani, he entered into this comatose state where he was completely overwhelmed by a mood of love that he lost all sense of external awareness and all sense of internal awareness. He was completely just lost in love, remembering the love of the devotees in Vrindavan. So all the devotees in Dwarka were very concerned about him. Mother Devaki, Vasudeva, Uddhava, they're all very concerned and they couldn't figure out what was going on with him. That particular moment, Narada Muni flew in. Narada Muni flew in. Just give me 1 second. I got it. Narada Muni flew in to Dwarka. In Dwarka, he could identify what was wrong with Krishna. And he said, what's wrong with Krishna is he's experiencing ecstatic separation from the resonance of Vrindavan. And I know the cure for his sickness, but if we're going to bring him back to health, we should prepare a chariot in order to bring him to Vrindavan immediately. So the residents of Dwarka immediately agreed, what do we have to do? What do we have to do? He said, well, I will sing the glories of Vrindavan in my Vienna. And then when Krishna arises, we should put him in the chariot and then we'll bring him to Vrindavan. And then they suggested we should send a messenger to inform the residents of Vrindavan that Krishna is on his way. So then Narada Muni suggested, Uddhava, why don't you go? And Uddhava said, I can't go. I've been to Vrindavan. I've spoken to the residents of Vrindavan. I've told them that Krishna will be coming back soon. I promised them that Krishna will return. Krishna will return. But Krishna has never returned, despite my pleas. So if I go, they won't believe me. So I can't go. So then Narada Muni suggested, Balaram, why don't you go? And then Balaram said, he hung his head in shame and he just shook his head. He said, I can't go. I've been to Vrindavan. I've seen Mother Yashoda. I've seen Nanda Maharaj. And I've told them that I promised them that I would tell Krishna to come. And I've told Krishna over and over again, please return to Vrindavan. Please return to your Vrindavan. But still he wouldn't listen to me. So if I go, just like Uddhava, they won't believe me. They won't believe anything that I have to say. So how can I go? There's no way I can go. So then Lady Subhadra, Srimati Subhadra, Subhadra Maharani, she suggested, I'll go. I'll go because I'm a woman, and when I speak to them, they'll believe me because I'll just tell them these men are very crooked. They have, a very coarse nature. But when I speak, I'll speak very simple words and they'll understand that I'm telling the truth. So I'll go. And then Balaram says, well, if you're going, then I have to go. So then Balaram, they prepared a chariot for Balaram and Subhadra, and they went first. And as they were going first, then Narada Muni began playing on his Vienna. Jaya Radhe, Jaya Krishna, Jaya Vrindavan, Shri Govinda Gopi, Nata Madana Moha. He began singing the glories of Vrindavan, and Krishna arose, and his eyes became huge. And he began looking around. He said, "Where's my flute? Where's my peacock feather?" He immediately entered a three-form bending form, and he couldn't find his flute. He couldn't find his peacock feather. And then he said, "Those gopis, they must have stolen my peacock feather and my flute." He was completely mad with love. And then Narada Muni said, "No, my lord, you're not in Vrindavan. Let us bring you to Vrindavan." So then Krishna, in a mood of intoxicated love, remembering the love of Vrindavan, was escorted to his chariot. And when he was walking there, he was walking in a very drunken way. This is why you see in Jagannath Puri and Shubham, you've been to Rath Yatra before? You're from Orissa?
No, Prabhu, I have not been fortunate enough.
Rath Yatra before? Anyone? No one? Okay, no worries. Well, in Rath Yatra, this is mentioned in the Chaitanya Charitamrita. When they're bringing Lord Jagannath to his chariot, he's swaying side to side. And the reason why he's swaying side to side is because he's in this drunken, intoxicated state of Mahabhav. So Krishna is in this mood when he's going to his chariot, remembering that he's going to Vrindavan. So while all this is going on in Vrindavan, Srimati Radharani is on the verge of death. Her skin has become swollen. She's completely emaciated. Her body has become so skinny that her rings on her fingers now appear to be like bangles. And all the residents of Vrindavan are trying to console her because she's on the verge of death. And she said, and they're telling her, "Oh Radhe, don't leave. Don't leave." Chandravali, who's considered to be a right-wing gopi, who's Srimati Radharani's primary competitor in Vrindavan, she says, although we compete, although I meet with Krishna, the only reason why I meet with Krishna is because it gives him more pleasure when he meets with you. Please don't leave. And Abhimanyu, he pleads to Srimati Radharani. He says, I know that the only reason why I'm your husband is only to increase the love between you and Krishna. But don't leave. So Srimati Radharani is on the verge of death because Krishna has left Vrindavan and she's left in a state of deep, deep separation from Krishna. Completely immobile, completely non-responsive, just completely absorbed and wondering, when will Krishna return to Vrindavan? When will Krishna return to Vrindavan? So when all this is going on, Balaram is going first, Subhadra in the middle, and then Krishna is in the back. So this is the traditional formation of Ratha Yatra. At first is Balaram, then Subhadra, then Jagannath. Sometimes in America we have Jagannath first. That's a detail. But in Jagannath Puri, you'll always see Balaram first, Subhadra second, Jagannath third. So Balaram's going ahead, and Subhadra is going ahead, and Jagannath's in the very back. So when Balaram and Subhadra enter into Vrindavan and they see the love of the residents of Vrindavan, they see them in their completely desolate state of deep separation, remembering Krishna. They immediately become overwhelmed with love. Their eyes become huge and their body becomes shrunken, and they become completely overwhelmed with love, seeing the deep separation of the residents of Vrindavan. Then Krishna enters into Vrindavan. When Krishna enters into Vrindavan, he goes in and he's immediately brought to the Kunja, where Srimati Radharani is lying on her deathbed. And right when he's beginning to enter, Vrinda Devi arranges that a wind comes, catches the fragrance of Krishna's body, and enters into Srimati Radharani's nose, right when Lalita Devi whispers in her ear and she says, Krishna is here. When these two things happen, she opens her eyes and she looks at Krishna, and Krishna sees her, and she sees her, and Krishna sees him, and Krishna becomes completely ecstatic, and he enters into this Mahabhava Prakash. So this is the Tattva of Lord Jagannath. The Jagannath is Krishna in the mood of crying for Srimati Radharani. This is the Antarakarna of Lord Jagannath's form and Lord Jagannath's residence in Nilachala, because Vrindavan is Milana Dham, Sambhoga Dham, Madhurya Dham. It's a land of union. It's a land of coming together with Krishna. So in order to facilitate the mood of separation, Jagannath has resided in Nilachala, and he's feeling separation for Srimati Radharani. So why is it that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu chose to take birth? Not chose to take birth. Why is it that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu chose to reside in Nilachala Dham? Why is it that when Chaitanya Mahaprabhu would stand in front of Jagannath, he would cry tears and tears and tears? Who's been in the Jagannath temple? Kontakarnava? Everyone. So Kontakarnava, when we were there this past year, did you get to go to the Garuda Stamba?
I don't recollect to. I was there one night.
The last door. We were all standing.
Okay. Yeah, maybe yes, we were there together too.
We were at the last door.
Did anyone see the Garuda Stamba?
There was one stamba here we saw.
You've seen the Garuda Stamba, Shubham. So you know that at that Garuda Stamba, there's a handprint of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and on the floor, there's a hole where his tears used to fall. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu would stay in the Jagannath temple at the Garuda Stamba, crying and crying and crying and crying, simply staring at Lord Jagannath. What is this tattva? What is going on here? Why is it that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is residing in Jagannath Puri? It's explained that when Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was on his way to Vrindavan, he experienced 100 times more ecstasy than when he was in Jagannath Puri. When he was entering to Mathura, he was feeling 1,000 times more ecstasy. And then when he was entering into Jagannath Puri, he was feeling 100,000 times, not Jagannath Puri, when he's entering into Vrindavan, wandering the forest of Vrindavan, he was overwhelmed with 1,000 times more ecstasy. But then we see in Jagannath Puri, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is exhibiting symptoms of love which have never been seen before. His body's becoming elongated. He's becoming shrunken like a tortoise. He's throwing his face against the Gambhira, simply crying, Krishna, Krishna, Krishna. I dina daya Natha he, mathura natha kadava lokshase. Hridayam tvamaloka kartaram, dayata brahmati kim karonyaham. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is crying in a mood of separation in Jagannath Puri and experiencing symptoms of love which have never been seen before in all the three worlds. What is going on in Jagannath Puri? Why is Chaitanya Mahaprabhu crying for Lord Jagannath? During Ratha Yatra, all of these things are revealed, and by the mercy of Srila Rupa Goswami, by the mercy of Srila Prabhupada, and by the mercy of the Vaishnavacharyas, we have access into understanding what is Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's mood in Jagannath Puri. But in order to understand Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's mood, we have to understand his inner reason for appearing in this world, which is mentioned in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, Adi Leela, chapter 1, text number 5. Radha Krishna Pranaya Vikriti Haladan Dini Shaktir Asmat Ekat Atmanavapi Bhuvi Puradeha Bedam Jato Tato Chaitanyakyam Prakatam Adunatavam Chayakyam Aptam Radha Baba Duti Svulitam Naumi Krishna Swarupam. So what's specifically being said here is the loving affairs of Sri Sri Radha and Krishna are transcendental manifestations of the Lord's internal pleasure-giving potency. Although Radha and Krishna are one in their identity, they separated themselves eternally. Now these two transcendental identities have again united in the form of Sri Krishna Chaitanya. I bow down to him who is manifested with himself with the sentiment and complexion of Srimati Radharani, although he is Krishna himself. So what's being specifically mentioned here is Radha Baba Dyuti Suvalitam Naumi Krishna Swarupam. So he who is identical with Krishna has accepted the mood and complexion of Srimati Radharani. Just like if one becomes angry, their complexion changes. If one becomes sad, their complexion changes. So in the same way, the emotion of Radha Baba is overwhelming so much within the heart of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu that his complexion has become golden. The mood of Srimati Radharani is pervading through Krishna. And this pervasive of Srimati Radharani's mood within Krishna himself, although they're two personalities, they become one in the form of Sri Krishna Chaitanya. And Sri Krishna Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is residing in Jagannath Puri and staring at Jagannath and crying and crying and crying. What is this tattva? What is happening here? Why are these things going on? We should think about this. We should contemplate this. This is mentioned by Kaviraj Goswami in the Chaitanya Charitamrita. When Chaitanya Mahaprabhu sees Lord Jagannath on the cart, he begins to recite this verse. Ya Komara Hare Vasaya Evahi Varasta Eva Chaitra Kapas Kemolita Molati Surabaya Podra Kadamba Nila Sachaivam Sitatapi Tatra Surata Vyaya Parali Vedao Reva Rodasi Vetasi Tarutale Cheta Samutkantate. That very personality who stole my heart during my youth is now again my master. These are the same moonlit nights of the month of Chaitra. The same fragrance of malati flowers is there, and the same sweet breezes are blowing from the Kandamba forest. In our intimate relationship, I am also the same lover. yet still my mind is not happy here. I'm eager to go back to that place on the bank of the Reva, under the Vaisesika tree. That is my desire. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is reciting this verse over and over and over again. And everyone doesn't understand why he's reciting this verse. This verse is like a pop culture song. It's like if, you know, a sannyasi in ISKCON were to come to Jagannatha Rath Yatra and start singing a Britney Spears song or something. No one can understand why is this going on. And so he's singing this over and over and over again. And the only person who can understand this is Swarup Damodar. But then one year, Rupa Goswami comes to Jagannath Puri for Rath Yatra. And when Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was reciting this verse over and over and over again, Rupa Goswami develops great inspiration in his heart, and then he writes out a verse which corresponds to this verse, and he reveals the inner mood of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Priyo saham soyam Krishna sa achari kuruksetra militas daraham saradha tad idam ubayor sagama sukam Daryapti anta kelan madura murali panchama juse Mano me kalindi pulinda vipayana srihayanti. Rupa Goswami composes this verse, my dear friend, now I have met my very old and dear friend Krishna on this field of Kurukshetra. I am the same Radharani, and now we are meeting together. It is very pleasant, but I still would like to go to the bank of the Yamuna beneath the trees of the forest there. I wish to hear the vibration of his sweet flute, playing the fifth note within that forest of Vrindavan. So in this verse, Rupa Goswami is revealing the inner mood, the Radha Bhavi Duti Svalitam of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And Rupa Goswami wrote this verse, put it in his thatched hut, and went to go bathe in the ocean. When he was bathing in the ocean, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu came and pulled the verse out. And when he read it, he said, how does he know my mind? And Swarup Damodar said that the only way he can understand your heart is by your own mercy. So when Rupa Goswami came back, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu gave him a slap. How do you know my mind? So this is why we glorify Rupa Goswami every single morning. Sri Chaitanya Manobishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Vedantikam Swadantikam Vedantikam Swadantikam. That Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has his desire, his innermost desires, his innermost feelings have been understood by Srila Rupa Goswami. And Srila Rupa Goswami is, as Srila Prabhupada says, is overseeing the development, is supervising the development of the Krishna consciousness movement. Personally overseeing, in the Nectar of Instruction, Rupa Goswami says this. So the mood of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in Jagannath Puri, which has been revealed by Srila Rupa Goswami Pad, and which has been revealed by Srila Prabhupada through his translations of the Chaitanya Charitamrita, is that in Jagannath Puri, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is exhibiting the limit of prema. He's exhibiting the last limit of prema. And that last limit of prema is Vipralamba Bhav of Srimati Radharani, the mood of separation of the residents with Krishna in Vrindavan. The battlefield of on the field of Kurukshetra, during the solar eclipse, the Vrajvasis came and they saw Krishna and Krishna saw them. But they're feeling the highest level of separation with Krishna in their midst, but they're not able to exchange the type of love which they feel so drawn to. And so they're begging Krishna, please come back to Vrindavan. It's not the same. You're here, I'm here, but it's not the same experience. So the festival of Rath Yatra is bringing Krishna from the mood of Aishwarya and bringing him into the mood of Vrindavan, saving him, as Srila Madhavananda Prabhu says, rescuing God from organized religion and bringing him into the village of our heart. This is Rath Yatra. Rath Yatra means awakening a spontaneous attraction for Krishna, awakening a spontaneous mood of service for Lord Jagannath. in understanding Adyapi Kari Lila Kare Gora Roy, Kona Kona Bhagyavani Deki Parapoy. That the pastimes of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu are still happening. And just as we see in the world, everywhere in the world, we have this very majestic understanding of God, this very exalted understanding of God. But in the Gaudiya Vaishnava tradition, we bring God from that mood of awe and reverence, and we bring him to the streets of New York, to the streets of Venice Beach, and we give his darshan to everyone in the world. We bless the entire world with his glance of affection, and everyone becomes benefited by that affection. So this is the mood of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in the course of experiencing the highest level of ecstatic love. He's simultaneously making this love available to everyone else. Anarpita charim chirat karuna avatina kalo samar paitamu nanta dwala rasam swabhakti shriyam hari pundara sundara duti kadamba sadipidaha sada hridaya kandare spurito va sachinandana. May that Sri Sachinandana Gaura Hari be situated in the innermost core of your heart, because he is bringing that which has not been brought in a very long time, that which hasn't been introduced ever before. He is introducing this mood of ecstatic love, which is available in the residence of Vrindavan, and he's breaking open the storehouse of God and making it available to the entire world through the chanting of Hare Krishna, through the distribution of books, and through the distribution of prasadam. So the Jagannath festival is a feeling festival, Srila Prabhupada would say. So in order to develop that feeling, we have to hear, and by hearing, that vibration goes into our heart. And if we're hearing attentively, that vibration changes our heart. And with that change of heart, we can cry out to Krishna in a mood of separation. We can cry out to Krishna in the mood of serving Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and thus enter into the pastimes of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu as they're happening right now. And this is being made available to us to Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's dearmost Senapani Bhakta, Srila Prabhupada, and all of his Nitya Siddha associates who are expanding the Krishna consciousness movement all over the world. Gaurangera Sangi Jana Nitya Siddhi Karimana. That one should not consider those associates of Mahaprabhu who are existing now and the associates of Mahaprabhu who are existing then to be not on the same level. We should see that they are all Nitya Siddha associates, those who are given their entire life to preaching the Sankirtan movement purely, those who have given their life to giving the opportunity for people to hear the holy names. These personalities are considered to be Nitya Siddhas by Narottam Das Thakur. And to go into the streets of Venice Beach and to chant the holy names with them, and to distribute Srila Prabhupada's books with them, and to distribute prasadam with them, gives us the opportunity to get a glimpse into the heart of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And by getting a glimpse into that heart of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, the natural byproduct is that a mood of separation for Krishna will arise within us, and a mood of compassion, seeing others separated from Krishna, will be simultaneously manifested, all through the festival of Jagannath Ratha Yatra. So we have a wonderful opportunity to engage in the service of Srila Prabhupada this upcoming weekend, and to extend ourselves in the service of the Lord. And we understand from the Chaitanya Charitamrita that the way we get the mercy of Lord Jagannath, the way we get the mercy of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, is through our humble service attitude. And this was displayed by Maharaj Pratapuruja when he was sweeping. By extending ourselves in the service of Jagannath, by extending ourselves in the service of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, we'll receive the direct mercy of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Jagannath, and will become empowered to expand the Sankirtan movement all over the world, having pleased them through this Ratha Yatra festival. Hare Krishna. So I'm sorry I went a little bit longer, but I wanted to spend a little bit more time today speaking about this. So if we have some reflections, maybe can we have 5 extra minutes than normal, Konta Karnava? Okay. Anyone has anything to say? Yes, Subham.
Hare Krishna Prabhu, thank you so much for that nectarian class on the Tattva of Rath Yatra. It was, yeah, I think I have something to contemplate on throughout the day, throughout the week, throughout the month, on whatever you said today. Thank you so much for that. I really like 2 points, Prabhuji. Like one is that this always baffles me actually, how we can use separation and union in the same context of Rath Yatra. So thank you for explaining how the gopis and Radharani, although like Krishna is there in their presence, but it's not the same in the same mood of Vrindavan. I really like that point. And the second point is that I really like is like trying to serve the acharyas gives us a glimpse into the mood and heart of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Understanding that gives me, at least me, the motivation of trying to do my best in services, in whatever services is related to Srila Prabhupada's mission, to really understand that. Thank you so much for that. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Prabhu, I really like the point you mentioned about Madhvanan Prabhu, I think Srila Madhvanan Prabhu, that he mentioned that Jagannatha Yatra is for rescuing God from organized religion to the village of our heart, so making it more spontaneous. So it is not seen in the entire world. God is revered and worshipped in awe and reverence. But here in Gaudiya Vaishnavism, we have this mode of spontaneous loving service. Thank you, Prabhu.
And your conclusive statement was amazing, Prabhu. Like how you said, when we go out to distribute books on Jagannatha that we have in LA streets, we're actually giving them the mode of Mahaprabhu, the mode of separation. So which is practically like letting them see their position, their truth. Everybody is hankering after that real one. That would be really nice. That was wonderful.
Yeah, compassion and separation are two sides of the same coin. That we feel separation, feeling distance from Krishna, and then we feel compassion seeing others distance from Krishna.
And Prabhu, I have another question. So you said about Krishna being taken in chariot to Vrindavan and then he sees Srimati Radharani. Is there anything that says what happens after that?
The story? No, there's not. The story kind of ends there. This is a story that Srila Gaura Maharaj used to say a lot in relationship to Jagannath. So I've simply tried to repeat what I've heard from him. There's a booklet called 3 Logs of Wood. It's available as a Kindle book. Very short book. You could probably read it in an hour when you guys are driving down for Jagannatha Rath Yatra. And the story is there. It's called 3 Logs of Wood. Very small book, easy to read. And reading this will really help you appreciate Jagannatha Rath Yatra more.
Thank you.
Hare Krishna Prabhu, thanks so much for the class, for bringing us into this contemplating this relationship between Lord Jagannath and Radharani. And there was just one detail that stood out to me that I was not familiar with. Did you mention that that Abhimanyu was the husband of Srimati Radharani?
In Vrindavan, yes.
Oh, okay. What time period is this? Because I'm just familiar with Abhimanyu as like fighting on the
different Abhimanyu. Different Abhimanyu, same name.
Oh, okay. Thank you, Prabhu.
Okay, anything else? No? Vishal?
Thank you for the nice class. Yeah, it was nice to hear the Tattva of Lord Jagannath. I've got a technical question, like I'm not able to wrap my head around Lord Chaitanya. So basically, Jagannatha has also explained this correct that Krishna and Radha like one entity is separated into 2 for the living exchange. And then Krishna is taking the mood of Radharani to understand her feelings for him. So, I mean, this is completely confused. Like, if they are already one entity separated into two, like, why can't Krishna express Radharani's feelings separately?
Why can't Krishna experience? Because Krishna is the Vishai, and Srimati Radharani is the Ashray. So the Vishai is one who gives shelter, and Srimati Radharani is the Ashray, the one who is given shelter. So in the process of giving shelter, one can't experience receiving shelter. So their existing is too for the purpose of rasa. So they have different moods which they have. And so Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, it should be understood, many acharyas have said that one should not think, specifically Jagannatha Pandit, he says, don't think that Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu appeared first and then Radha and Krishna. And don't think that Radha and Krishna appeared first and then Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. They're both eternally existing. This is the inconceivable oneness and difference of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is Swayam Bhagavan. Sri Krishna Chaitanya, Radha Krishna Nahi Anya. They're both eternally existing. So this is the unlimited variegatedness of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, is that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is Radha and Krishna. And Radha and Krishna are simultaneously existing, and Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is simultaneously existing. The thing is that if we try to impose our conception of time upon the dimension of the spiritual world, we'll become confused because time doesn't function the way that it does here. When we conceive of time within our limited sphere of experience, we think of past, present, and future. So we think there has to be a cause for something. But in the spiritual world, everything is eternally existing. Everything is eternally present. So Radha and Krishna are existing as two separate entities, and Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is existing as a singular entity. And these things are going on eternally. It's beyond our capacity of comprehension. And this is okay. It's not outside the realm of pure theism, because Jiva Goswami explains that in order for God to be complete, there has to be an element of achintya, inconceivability. So how Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is Radha and Krishna combined, and how Radha and Krishna are eternally existing as two separate entities, is the inconceivable nature of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. But it's explained extensively in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, how Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is Swayam Bhagavan Krishna directly.
Okay, thank you.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Prabhu, thank you for the very Victorian class. I just had a reflection that in this, this is the union of Radharani and Krishna in some sense. So this is like well, this is not the most appropriate way to put it, but I am visualizing it that in the Jagannath Puri temple, Jagannath is very ecstatic, looking towards Radharani, and Radharani in the form of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is in the form of Radharani. She is is also very ecstatic looking at Jagannath. So this is kind of like the happy ending in movies where finally.
It's actually different from that. It's not necessarily the same type of union, because Jagannath Puri is Vipralambha Secha. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is residing in Jagannath Puri not to experience the mood of union. That's Vrindavan. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is existing in Jagannath Puri because Krishna in Jagannath Puri is a mood of opulence and sweetness simultaneously. So Jagannath is appearing very, very opulent. I mean, he's being fed 57 offerings a day, and he's, worshipped very majestically in the Jagannath temple. So this mood is contrary to the Vrindavan mood. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is residing in Jagannath Puri, and he's staring at Jagannath, wondering, when will you come back to Vrindavan? So it's a different type of mood, actually. It's a different type of mood. It's not the same mood as Milan. It's Vipralambha. So we have to understand this very clearly. Otherwise, we can fall victim to what's known as rasabas. We'll mix mellows. But actually, the mood of Jagannath Puri is separation. It's Vipralambha. And even when Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is seeing Jagannath in the Jagannath temple, he's still feeling separation. This is the tattva of Jagannath Puri. This is the tattva of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu residing in Jagannath Puri, because he's experiencing the mood of separation, the last limit of prema, when he's residing in Jagannath Puri. Okay, thank you all. Hare Krishna, Vansha Kalpatarundasya Kripa Sindhudevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Anantakoti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Jai, Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai, Jagannath Swami Ki Jai, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu Ki Jai.